Hi everyone. Uh, so this channel is all about gardening. You can see a lot of plants behind me. I'm very passionate about plants. Subscribe to the channel and follow my videos on this. Stay tuned. Also follow me on Facebook for daily updates if that's something that you're interested in. Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about biggest plant myths and mistakes that we make. Very common ones, not the biggest ones. Let's talk about them one by one. Number one myth is that everybody says that, oh, we'll get more oxygen and whatnot, but actually it's not true. If you want to increase the oxygen of your room, you should get an oxygen machine, not plants, because to increase the oxygen level in the room, you have to literally have 30, 40 or maybe 50 plants in a room. Maybe then it will increase a little bit. Even in that case, it's not possible for humans to live in a room. I don't think it's practically possible for anyone to live in a room with so many plants, because then you'd literally not having place to walk. So the entire surface area has to be covered with green cover for oxygen content to increase in a room. So that is number one myth. Myth number two, plants grow bigger in bigger pots. Absolutely not. It's not true, because in many cases plants grow, take a lot of time to grow. If they are in bigger pots, they grow much better. Leaves, they grow much better if they are in smaller pots. I can give an example of that actually. So you see all the plants here, they all like to be root bound right now. So for example, this Kindapsis, I had put it in a larger basket. It was not growing at all. So now I've put it in a smaller pot, and that will grow better. So the point is that bigger pots stay very far away. Unless a plant is root bound, don't put it in a bigger pot. Bigger pot does not mean bigger plant. Myth number three. I think three. Myth number three. So, ailing plants, plants are not happy, plants are browning, plants are deteriorating in quality, and you think maybe I should water it more. Maybe I should fertilize it. Maybe I should give it buttermilk. Maybe I should give it fertilizer, and I don't know what all other things and experiments and whatever. No, if a plant is ailing, like literally ailing, it looks sick, it is because of some other reason. Top two reasons can be water problem or light problem. The commonly third reason after water and fertilizer, is pest problem. So that's it. These three problems, you need to check it out. So if it's overwatering, then it will probably have a root rot and a fungal situation. If it's underwatering, then its roots would not get water and it would shrivel up. If it's low light, its plant cannot make use of its leaves or whatever. Now, if it's a pest problem, the pests are messing around with the plant ecosystem. So basically, myth number three is people usually tend to overdo things when a plant is ailing, but when you do that, you might harm the plants more than fix it. Do not do that. Ailing problems are either a watering problem or a light problem or a pest problem. In many cases in nature, you will see that plants with pest survive. So I've seen this beautiful rose garden in Gangtok. It was full with pest and it has beautiful flowers. That is to say that plants are very resilient actually, if given proper conditions. So you always have to focus on light and water. The tertiary case is pest. Another point, which is related to myth number one, which is plants give out a lot of oxygen for you during the day. Plants give out carbon dioxide during the night. Well, they do, but if you have a couple of plants, or maybe even 10-20 plants, the amount of oxygen that the room, amount of carbon dioxide the room would have would not affect you at all. It's just minuscule. For that to affect you, it has to be, I think, like I mentioned, it has to be 50 to 100 plants inside your room stuffed. At that point, I don't really know how you can live in the room. So, I mean, carbon dioxide or not, you might not be able to live in the room if there are hundreds of plants. So I think this is myth number 5 or whatever. I forgot the track of it, maybe 4 or 5. So the next myth is most indoor plants go dormant during winter season. Well, it's not really true. It depends upon where you live, and in my case, I've seen that both in tropical weather and in non-tropical weather, both. If the plant wants to give out growth, is giving out new growth, it means it's still going to grow. And then if it's growing, you have to keep on giving food. Maybe you have to reduce your frequency. But there's no rule that it's going to go dormant at this point, because they tend to grow. They kind of still grow. In my case, most of the plants have grown throughout the year, so there is no such myth that it's a myth that most indoor plants will go dormant during winter period. I guess that's pretty much it on what I wanted to talk about in terms of the most common myths about gardening and houseplants. Now we can talk about most common mistakes. You can also check out my long video and rant somewhere here for that. So I would categorize into 4. It's also linked to the biggest myths actually. The first and foremost one is all kinds of experimentation, putting up buttermilk, putting up this, that, and those fancy things. You have no idea on how the process is for a gharelu fertilization or a homemade fertilization. If you know the proper process, you've studied that and you're implementing it, that's completely fine. But if you're a newbie, if you're a beginner, don't try to experiment those dahi dal, put up some curd, put up some coffee or tea leaves or whatever. Don't do that. Please buy some fertilizer. Plant food, you get both organic and chemical. You can buy them and invest a little bit on plant food. You invest on your food, you invest on pet foods, also invest a little bit on plant foods. So just buy some plant food and feed them that. Don't experiment. And the second part of this experimentation is that when plants get sick, don't start fertilizing or don't start overwatering or don't start, if plants get sick, don't water it. Watering it is not going to fix it. It's just it might just get worse. Maybe it's getting sick because it's root rot, and then you think that maybe it wants water. I've done that. And then the roots get rotten even more and they deteriorate. So don't do that. Just figure out, your watering schedule. So you can figure out, okay, maybe I'm leaving the soil a little bit more dry. Then I should have to water it more. Or maybe I am watering, maybe the soil is sticky all the time. I'm still watering it. The biggest rule of watering is stick your thumb or finger into the soil. If it's dry till here, if you cannot feel water at all, then you should water it. It's the most common general thumb rule that you can follow for all your plants. Mistake number 2 is that light. Light is a very big problem for beginners. When we start gardening, we talk about a lot of low light plants and dark house plants, all those things. They don't exist. All plants need light. And the thing is that, yes, for example, I'll give you an example. Jade plant that you buy, be it elephant jade or normal jade. It's also sold as house plant, right? Good house plants, but it's not technically a house plant. I have seen that it thrives in east facing window. barely lives if you keep it even in a well-lit window. So it loves sun, so you have to give it sun. Yeah, if you have sunlight inside your room, then you can of course keep it there. Again, no plant is outdoor or indoor. We have just picked up some plants from the forest and decided that we want to keep it indoor. Why do we want to keep it indoor? Because it can stay indoor. It can stay in this light. The minimum amount of light that a plant would need is at least 4 to 5 hours of light, where you can read a book, a paper book, properly. That is the minimum amount of light any indoor plant lives for. If you absolutely are not sure that whether it's dark or something, the plants that have survived the darkest of corners, by dark I mean indirect bright light, that means I will find it a little bit tough to read a book, but I might be able to read a book for 4 or 5 hours a day. So Sansevieria can survive that. Some philodendrons can survive that. Philodendron red emerald, philodendron Hartley philodendron can survive that. But again, these variegated plants, they cannot survive that. So for example, I don't have it here right now. So Brazil philodendron or lemon lime philodendron, the lighter shade ones, they don't survive in low light. They have to be in bright light. Number 3 mistake that we do is we pot a plant without drainage. This is absolutely basic. You have to have drainage. In case you have to prepare a bed which has no drainage, in that case, take up a broken terracotta pot, old terracotta pot, break it, and put up all the broken terracotta pots underneath. Create a soil layer, like in science classes we used to read, right? There's a stone layer and there's there are different layers of soil. The topmost layer is rich in nutrients. Then there is sandy and loamy soil. Then there is stones and all of that. So to resemble that. Otherwise, what happens is if the entire thing is kind of sticky with water, the roots don't get a chance to breathe or let out the water outside it. So that's something you have to avoid, and you have to emulate that condition for your plants. Plants need drainage. If you're starting it out, you have to have drainage in your pot. Excess water should come out of the pot. And finally, mistake that we do is we don't invest in soil. Like I mentioned, food, you have to invest in food. Soil is a food for the plant. So please invest in that, because most nurseries here, they don't give quality soil. Many nurseries may give quality soil. If that is the case in your area, that's fine. But in my case, they don't give that nutritious a soil, which is why I change it after a couple of months. You can buy the soil from Amazon, or you can even buy from these local nurseries who don't give proper soil. They have good soil, but they don't give it in the plants by default. So also, talking of soil, any kind of insects, earthworms, or any kind of insects in potted soil is not good for you, because especially for your indoor plants, because you're already taking them out from their nature and putting it in a boxed environment. Let's say the roots are there and there's very limited space. So what happens is the insects will chomp on it, insects will multiply there, and it will take up the space in the pot, and it will end up hurting the roots. So it's always, of course, earthworms can provide some nutrients in the soil, but you can also get that nutrients by just simple fertilizer. So in this case, in a potted environment, the pros do not outweigh the cons. So basically, you have to measure what soil. If you have a land, earthworms are a sign of good soil. But in case of pot, their benefits are much less than their side effects. So you can read about on them. This is also one of the myths, actually, that earthworm in a potted environment is good for the plants. It's not true. The amount of nutrients that they add, 1 or 2 earthworm, probably causes more harm than the good that they provide in the soil. Of course, you can add vermicompost if you are so much of a fan of earthworms in the soil. That would probably give some nutrients to the plants as well. In that case, earthworms are fine. Thanks for watching and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram for daily updates. Hope this video helps. A very short overview of the common mistakes that we think. Plants are not miracles. Don't keep plants if you want oxygen in your room. If you want oxygen in your room, keep an oxygen machine or a cylinder. But don't buy plants. Plants in general are good for aesthetic value and mental peace. All those is fine. As a hobby, it's fine. That's it. Don't fall into these myths and mistakes that are commonly found in housing, in gardening these days. You know, these articles and these flashy videos that come in. Don't fall for those. Thanks.